Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Marilyn Marks. I'm here with Amy Knowlton and Heather Pettis. We are longtime right whale researchers at the Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life at New England Aquarium. We're very excited today to tell you about our recent publication, a book called Disappearing Giants. It's the story of right whales, their very earliest whaling history for which they were named the right whale to hunt, to the most up-to-the-date research findings. The book was authored by 5 of us. Scott Krause was the lead author, and Scott led the right whale program at the aquarium since its inception in 1980 until his retirement last year. The 3 of us are co-authors along with Ken Mallory, and the amazing photo curator for the book was our colleague at the aquarium, Mariana Hagblum. Now, Disappearing Giants is actually a major revision of a small format book that Scott and Ken wrote by the same name back in 2003. And a lot has happened to right whales and right whale research in those 17 years. So we knew it needed to be updated. And we were just starting to talk about how to revise it when Scott got a call from a Canadian publisher, Fitzhenry and Whiteside. And serendipitously, they were asking Scott if he was interested in doing a book about right whales. So he told them our idea. They said it was great. And so that got the ball rolling. Now, while we were rewriting the book, it gave us a great opportunity to just add a lot more detail, cover more topics, and illustrate it throughout with really big, beautiful full-page photos because it's a much larger format book.
Thanks, Marilyn. That was a really great introduction, and I want to say on behalf of all of us, it was super fun to rework the book and rewrite of it. It's really important to share from the outset that although the most of the authors of the book are New England Aquarium researchers, its content represents a really big collaborative body of work with contributions from countless researchers, managers, educators, conservationists, industry stakeholders, and more. And together, these group of collaborators make up a group called the North Atlantic Right Whale Consortium. This group was formed in 1986 and has been super active ever since and is really committed to sharing data, research, and expertise in order to conserve this endangered species. So while we're excited to have gotten to dive in deep and write it, it really represents a huge amount of group work by lots and lots of people who are really committed to saving this species.
So you'll find that in this book, we share many stories about the right whales and about how we, as the researchers, were and still are learning all we can about the species, who they are, where they go, how they exist in their watery home. And it's been a really fascinating journey to piece together the story of their lives, which has taken decades to really understand this population.
Right. And one of the big updates to the book is a look at how the species has changed over time, particularly since that first edition came out in 2003. When that came out, when that first edition was released, the North Atlantic right whale as a species was showing signs of recovery. The species was increasing in numbers, reaching almost 500 animals by 2011, and we had a pretty good handle on which habitats right whales were utilizing consistently. That all started to change pretty dramatically, in fact, in 2010. We started to see shifts in where right whales were spending their time. Coinciding with this shift in distribution, we saw an increase in deaths, unfortunately, and at the same time, a decrease in births. So as a consequence of these two things, the species has been in decline for nearly a decade. And rewriting the book allowed us to dive into these changes and share them through, again, really beautiful photographs and some wonderful stories of individual whales, including whales like Hidalgo and Pico and Iceland, who have shown us that right whales can and do travel far and wide across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, and one of the stories I really like, and it's in the book, is about exactly 400 years ago, 1620, November of 1620, as the Pilgrims lay at anchor on the Mayflower in Provincetown Harbor before they went over to Plymouth. William Bradford wrote in his journal that he had right whales, the best kind for oil and bone is what he said, but we know that was right whales, playing right around the ship. And I think it's just so cool that right whales are still coming to Cape Cod Bay 400 years later, and we're able to do just amazing research. All the groups, Center for Coastal Studies, Northeast Fisheries Science Center, the aquarium, where it's just so many groups can study them in that habitat still 400 years later, and that continuity is just so amazing. And that's another thing about the book, is just so accessibly written for even if you know a lot about right whales and all the challenges they face, or whether this is the first time you're hearing about them. This book, I think you'll enjoy this book very much because it's written in a way that's accessible to everyone.
So as Heather mentioned just a moment ago, we are unfortunately seeing a decline in the population of this critically endangered species since 2010. We know that the main threats that right whales face are entanglements in fishing gear and vessel strikes. And since their distribution shift in 2010, these threats have escalated and way too many right whales are dying now. But our team has been focused on understanding these threats and developing solutions to reduce these mortalities. We continue to explore ways that humans can change how we use the ocean to make it safer for right whales and other large whales as well. So by sharing these aspects of this work, we hope that you as the reader will recognize that to keep this species from going extinct, we all have to embrace changes in how we share the ocean with its inhabitants. So you'll read some of these stories in the book and learn about what we're trying to do to help this population.
Great points, Amy, and I agree that we are certainly in this together. And a common question we get asked after how did right whales get their name, which Marilyn did drop an Easter egg at the beginning of this and is explained in the book. But a question we get asked is whether there's hope for the species. And we and our collaborators would say absolutely, resoundingly yes. And that's really important to keep in mind, especially when there's bad news about a right whale death or a declining in population. This is not the species is not without hope. And so I want to read a short passage from the end of the book that gets to this feeling of hope. It does not, however, mean we are without hope. Extraordinary efforts are required to help both the wildlife and their human stewards through these events. Nevertheless, we know how to fix this. We can reduce entanglements, we can reduce ship strikes, and we can give right whales the break they need to recover. We whale biologists have faith in all of you, our readers, to carry this torch, and that with our combined efforts, we will not let right whales slip away. We really believe in those words and want to leave readers with a sense of hope and vision how we can save this species together. So thank you for tuning in. Information on how to purchase the book is included in the post description, and feel free to leave any questions that you might have for us in the comments, and we'll be sure to answer as many as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.